Assalamu alaikum. Hope you're all good. Peace be upon you. Let me just quickly deal with a few, or just at least with one question. This one important question I think that came up. There were several others also, but those others I think I've answered them quite sufficiently. But there is one that I think needs a bit more time, and I just want to get to the text of that question. Just want to get to the contents of that question. In fact, you know, in general, I noticed that the video on Friday on Yom Jumu'ah was more contentious than the other videos, and that there are people that feel it's very tough to hear that Friday is not really such a special day. And you know, I feel bad also, because I'm not 10 years ago when I started studying intensely the Quran, and I moved the hadith books and the fatwas and the ideas of all the ancient scholars, when I moved them to the background, it was difficult for me also. You know, I didn't want to I never really read the Quran as its own authority. I always read it as a book subjected to the opinions and the views of other scholars. And so I never gave my Lord and Creator Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that kind of independent voice. So I listen to Allah, I read the Quran, but I always read it with the voices of the scholars in my ears. And so I never allowed myself to read the book only for the book, and to make the assumption that perhaps this book was written for all times. Maybe this book, Allah in His infinite wisdom and mercy, maybe He created a book that is timeless, and we should believe that, isn't it? The book should be timeless. It should have a validity and relevance through all ages. And when we see the book addressing us as Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, it doesn't address the Prophet, it doesn't address the scholars, it doesn't say Ya ayyuhal a'imma or ulama, or, you know, sometimes it will refer to ulil albab, but it really refers to these special categories. It always refers to humanity, or to mu'min, those who are committed to the code, who have surrendered to the code. And so I honestly, when I started this Quran, I made that assumption, maybe Allah is speaking to me, maybe the book is timeless, maybe the book is accessible. What if the book is understandable without a middleman? And in fact, that idea of a middleman is decried, it is frowned upon in the Quran. It's the word shifa'a, you know, shafi, ma yashfa'u illa bi'idhni. So the word of the idea of a shafi' as a middleman is frowned on in the Quran. It's not, you know, when you read the Quran, you'll see that Allah often says that, don't, you know, who gave these middlemen the right to speak? And so I went to the book not really expecting what I was going to find. And I put the hadiths and all those, and I always say on this channel, I don't call for destroying hadiths. I have respect for ancient wisdom. And all those hadiths, there are many hadiths that I truly find has amazing wisdom contained in them. And so I'm the last person to condemn hadith or say, but look, we need to condemn the practice of deifying or making hadith divine. That is what I condemn, because that would go against the very idea of the Quran, that the Quran is the word, unadulterated word, the letter from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let me deal with this question, because I feel I owe it to the people who watch the videos and take the time of asking the question. I really appreciate your questions, and I'm not judgmental about questions unless it's playfulness or rubbish, you know. then I'll delete the question and I'll maybe block the person also. I haven't blocked anyone, but I think every question that looks like it's written in all honesty and with the real question, even if it is a bit angry, because I accept that you might be angry when you see some of this stuff. So I don't have a problem with people getting angry. I might have gotten angry if I heard the stuff that I'm putting on this channel 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I might have been very upset. But now with all the experience and with sincerity, you know, I look at the world, I look at what do we need to do to change things, to fix the problem. And we might have to do some radical things like revise these things that are not really with any solid basis in the Quran. So let me just quickly look at this question. The brother here says, very good, you explained this well, and keeping the Salah on Jumat is still normal. However, when you started to explain about the number of Salats a day, I got lost. Will you do a video on this, inshallah? So again, thank you to you for posting this question. All right, so you know, I try when you tell me I lost you or I confused you, you see what is happening is I'm sitting every day, every free, not maybe every free moment, but as much time as I can muster my energy, I sit with the Quran and I read one by one verse. I've done about 1,500 verses. I've been able to reflect on, interpret, and put over into my English, which I feel it reflects the spirit of the Arabic. And so that is available. I've uploaded it on my channel. So when I do reflecting and presenting the meaning to you using my own life experience, using my understanding, using my knowledge, using what my capabilities are, I try to make sense of it, and I hope that I would put it in a way that it makes sense to you also. Now the questioner here is asking, when you started to explain about the number of salats a day, I got lost. You see, I looked at approximately 100 cases where the word salah is used in various forms. Yusalli, sallu alayhi, salat. I looked at about 100 or so cases of the word salah. And what I did look at the ideas of other scholars, you know, Quran scholars, and the common ones, the popular ones that you must definitely have looked at. And I looked at how they look at Salah. Now, they might look at Salah as being attached to or closely connected to, or in one case I heard Salah means duty. But if I plug all their meanings in, if I plug their meanings into those 100 cases that I've found, right? If I plug their meanings into all of those 100 cases, it doesn't always fit. And I can show you even examples of where if you say Salah simply means duty, nothing else, it doesn't always fit. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Allah and his angels place duty on the Prophet. It doesn't sound right for me, but that's not the only one. There are more. You know, when you are out and about and you want to establish for them their duty, it's not always working. I looked at 100 cases. I made the effort. I took the time. I was honestly trying to make it work, but I couldn't make it work. And I came to the conclusion that Salah really does mean, and it has an abstract sense. And I gave you an example of exercise. You know, it is an abstract word in most of the cases. When Allah couples it with Salat, alladhina aqama as-salat wa atu zakat, right? Those who bring Salah and make zakah. When it is used in that sense, that's the most common way in which the word Salah is used. is aqimu salat wa atu zakat. That is, when it is used in that sense, and those are many, many, many cases throughout the Quran, when it is just applied broadly to Bani Israel, Nabi Ibrahim, to all times and ages, then I do believe that is the abstract sense. I do believe that when Salah is referred to in the abstract sense, it simply means a sense of commitment or engagement. And there's a host of English words you can substitute it with: engagement, commitment, connectedness, involvement. So all of those words would be the abstract sense of the word Salah. But there are cases, I cannot ignore those cases where the Quran is speaking about an activity, an action, something that people do, like for example in Surah Nisa, verse around about 100, around about there, Allah speaks about when you out in the land, when you travel out or when you explore the land and you want to convene Salah for them. Go and look up that verse. It's about verse 100, around about there. Surah Nisa, chapter 4, in other words. And you cannot read that verse really without imagining some sort of activity, some sort of event. So it's not abstract, it doesn't look abstract. The same with the verse in Surah Jumu'ah that I referred to yesterday. إِذَا قُدِيَتِ الصَّلَاةُ فَانْتَشِرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. So it is really referring to an event, to something, to something that needs to be completed. Now, I know some of you think that's also figurative, but I do see that also as a event, as something that is an event. And so what I see is that Salah has got two senses. It has an abstract sense, which is when it is used most of the time it's referred to in the abstract sense, but it has very surely also, and for certain from what I can see, also a definite physical indication, and that is the practice of Salah. And my idea, my definition of Salah is that there used to be a regular get-together. And I believe in the time of the Prophet, there was a regular convening of Salah. So the Prophet would call and people would attend. And where else would he share the Quran? I mean, think about it. He has to share the Quran. The Quran was not, the society was not written, it was oral. So how else was he going to share the Quran? The Quran has to be communicated to the people. And I believe the Salah sessions, the actual physical gatherings, were opportunities for the Prophet to relay the message to his people. And so they would come, there would be a caller that would say come, or they would, a reminder would go out at the end of work when they return from their farms. Medina's an agricultural community. When they return from their shops, when they close their shops, when the workers wash up and clean up, they would attend. In the Arabian Peninsula, nothing really can happen midday. It's too hot in summer. So I do believe that when the sun goes down, as the Quran says, when the sun becomes less strong, that is the time when you make Salah. And that, I believe, was the time when the Prophet used to, there was a call for people to attend. And if you live in Sweden, I've got a very close family member that's in Sweden at the moment, from a close member of my home. And she tells me that I think sunset is at 11, and at some time sunrise is 3 a.m. in the morning. And there's a certain time of the year when the sun actually never really sets, and it actually just continues into the new day without the sun ever having set. So you cannot be dogmatic about linking the waqtus with the sun. Absolutely not. I've shown you one exception, Sweden, so there could be more. The priests have gone and made sort of replacement rulings that they must take some other city nearby. No, it doesn't make sense. Which nearby city are you going to use in Antarctica? So I think let's just keep it the way the Quran says it, that the waqtus are as follows. Aqim as-salat tarafay an-nahar. At the two ends of the day, you are supposed to pay homage. That's that physical salah that we speak about, engaging with the wahi, in other words, reading and understanding and internalizing the verses of the Quran. That you have to do morning and evening. But you know, not strictly morning and evening, but before you start your work day and when you've done with your work day. That is the case that I see that it was in Medina, is that the people would come out of work, they would wash up after a day on the farm, could be whatever hour, and they would join the end of day salah. That's two salahs, right? Now when you study the Quran, you also see that when you read the verses on salah, you also see that there is clearly an indication that there is a salah that is into the night. That is into the night. And I will show you try and put the actual verses up for you. But those verses seem to indicate that once home, once you've done your end of work salah, end of day salah, there is a nighttime dedication which you do before you go sleep, or just when you've slept and you wake up and maybe you can't sleep. That is still there, a late night salah maybe, you see. So that's the three waqtus that I can see, is that beginning of day, probably on your own, or if you have a mosque nearby, you'll go to the mosque. Fajr, you can link it with Fajr in most places. End of work, when you come home, when you've washed up, right, you pay homage to Allah. Or if there's a mosque, I would normally say Maghrib suffices. You know, the waqt of Maghrib would be corresponding to that. And then evening, late night, you know, before you go and sleep, when you are ready to, you know, go to rest, maybe another session. And the important thing for me, I think, is not the movements, it's not the sujuds, rukus, whatever, but it is to engage with the text, with the ideas of the Quran. So if you can read one verse before you go to sleep, if you can, well, I adhere to the idea of following the motions. It's just you can blame me, you can attack me for it, but I do want to retain a link with the Muslim community. I don't want to become a new religion or an outcast or somebody weird. So I still feel attachment to my community. I still have family. I still have, you see, I'm not an internet person. I don't just live here. I have a family. I have a big family. We engage. They respect me a lot. They allow me to lead the prayers. I'm not doing it because I get accolades or get paid also. I just do it. I feel I have an opportunity to speak to them, and they watch, many of them watch these videos, and they are traveling this path with me, my close family. And so I'm not, you see, I'm not unlike some other Quran scholars or Quran researchers or students. I have to balance an existing life and family and people that I love and who love me. I have to walk the path with them. I'm not a recluse. I'm not locked up in my room with my computer with nothing else to do. And so when you see my attitude with Salah and all these things, you see that is how you must understand it. So I hope I've answered the question of this brother. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.